Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with Lesson 60. Who gave thee this authority? Of International Esoteric and Illuminated Bible Lessons by R. Swinburne Clymer. International Esoteric Bible Lessons prepared for the Sunday Schools of the Church of Divine Illumination. Special International Lesson. By what authority doest thou these things, and who gave thee this authority? Matthew, 21st chapter, 23rd verse. After Jesus had been healing the sick and teaching the pure doctrine in the temple, the Pharisees and Scribes demanded of him by what authority he was doing these things. In the eyes of the Pharisees and Scribes, the Orthodox of that day, nothing was supposed to be done unless it had the sanction of the established church and man-made laws. Far rather would they that these poor sufferers would die a miserable death than that they should be cured by those who had not received their authority from them. Jesus asked them the question which they could not answer, because they themselves had no authority except that which man and man-made institution had given them. They knew nothing of the spirit and but very little of the soul of man, nor did they know anything of its power. They healed as best they could, and whatever they could not heal, none else had a right to heal. However, as all men know, men and women left the established church in order to follow the teachings of Jesus, for in their hearts they knew that the authority of Jesus must be greater than that of the Pharisees and Scribes, because he could do greater things than they with their man-given authority. And brother, after many centuries, we are in exactly the same position that the people were at the time of Jesus. Bishop Ludden of the Catholic Church had instructed the clergy to warn their people against the superstitions of healing. The bishop, according to the Syracuse Herald, issued June 24th, 1911, made this statement. The clergy were directed at the semi-annual conference on Tuesday to warn their people against these modern healing superstitions, which are assuming frightful proportions in the community, and make it plain to them that the practice of consulting such healers constitutes a grievous sin. Many foolish Catholics have been in the habit of having recourse to such so-called healers, although it is forbidden to all Christians as a sin against the greatest commandment. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. What is a grievous or mortal sin? There can be but one grievous or mortal sin, although it may take many different forms, but the only real sin, either against God or man, is that which our conscience forbids us to do. The clergy who follow Bishop Ludden are taking exactly the same position as the Scribes and Pharisees in the time of Jesus. By what authority did you cure these pure, suffering people? There is but one authority which the true healer must obey, and that authority comes from God, through his own developed or illumined soul. Jesus, through the instructions he had received, had become thus illumined, and this illumination brought with it the power to heal and to teach. This was his authority, and though the Pharisees were in identically the same position as are the Catholic clergy of the present, and asked the same question of Jesus as now asked, the people knew who was right and followed the right, although it is true Jesus had to suffer. I believe that many true healers must suffer now for their healing as Jesus did then. But now as then, the people will gradually follow those who do the real work, and in the centuries to come, the clergy will be remembered in name only, as are the Scribes and Pharisees now, and the healers, the illuminated souls, will have the following. There is no question, but thousands of so-called healers are frauds, but the same thing is true of the clergy, and it is impossible to destroy the false without destroying the true. The true healer need not fear. He need not fear persecutions or denunciations, even though made by the clergy. For God's law, in the good time coming, will even things up. Does the clergy recognize the fact that not one in an even 100 will go to a healer until after authorized physicians and priests have failed to help them. That is a great fact that must be borne in mind. Were the clergy, rather than these millions that go to healers after authorized physicians and ministers have failed, should die? No doubt, but that is the way they look at it. But they should always remember that all things are under the absolute law, and that though they may get many of the weak to stay away from healers who might cure them, it is they, the clergy and their church, that will eventually be forced to pay the penalty. Furthermore, the law is plain. No one is free and conscious to consult one who, without properly constituted authority, attempts to heal by prayer or by the laying of hands. Who made this law? Did God make it? Did Jesus ever teach such a law? Has the church, no matter what the name, the right to make such a law? And what if, after such as have been authorized by the church or constituted authorities, fail to cure? Shall the poor, miserable sufferer then give up and suffer and die in misery? Or shall he go to one whom he believes might cure him? Did God ever say, because one cannot cure the sufferer, he shall not go to another? Nowhere can I find it so written. How can the church, any church, say who is free and who is not free and conscious to do a thing? No living man can know or claim to know the conscience of another. All men were given an individual conscience, and they were given the absolute right to follow that conscience. No man has a right to do that which will hurt another, and no man has the right to say what another shall or shall not do. Such a ruling as that made by the clergy is simply a boomerang that will destroy the church that allows it to be made. Mankind in the present century is becoming too well read and enlightened to obey such foolish mandates as this. They are commencing to think for themselves and to know that they, one and all, have equal opportunities with all other men. 'Tis said, him whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. And truly this would seem to be true. The more than 17 million of American people, among them many of the best and most enlightened Catholics who go to healers for treatment, prove that no longer is unreasonable church authority feared. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.